Welcome to the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club. My name's Matt Payne, and I'll be putting words to all of the race action on this qualifier race number one. This is kicking off the action here for two races, our men's and women's races, which are going to be the qualifiers for the Sunday Race Club final. 3 races to qualify, 2 races to count. Our riders on a course which is incredibly tough. You can see in front of you the key part of this course. It's 45 kilometers in distance. Key point 1,070 meters of ascent. Breaks down into 4 key sectors. We start off in town, we head into the dunes, and that comes in at 12.5 kilometers, finishes about 15.5 kilometers in. We come back through the urban environment, which is not flat. None of these urban areas are flat. Then onto the big climb of the Alpe de Hafit, really massive climb. I've raced and ridden this course on MyWhoosh, this fantastic platform which really will test our riders. Now we're going to get some indication of who's in those groups on the segments, but this is a scratch race. First over the line will win. Last time up this climb in the men's race club, it was Michael Vink of the Danish Pavlova squad who led in his teammate Michael Knudsen, and that was back in February. Which of our teams is going to do this? UAE Clan team led by Mr. X100 here today with Pablo Popovic. Popovic absolutely flying fourth in our last race in the final that we had only last week. We've got UAE Road Warriors Expo and the Yorkshire Pudding Express with Phil Graves in there alongside Tim Cutler, Paul Odin and Vidar Mail. They're going to be really, really hard to beat. But will the Clan team be able to take them out? Don't forget, of course, adding to that community sports club in there. Watch out for Yusuf in there, Umatari, as well as Lukel. The Abus Locale squad, very strong with Stefan van Eestet, Steven Tygard in there, as well as Matthias de Roost and Jasper Paridens. The draft team, well, they are decimated this time around. They have Bruce Bird in there, but it's going to be tough for them to be up there with Bushmiller, his only teammate, into Category 2. The next step down in our category, Strong Boys, Velo Racers, Abu Dhabi Boys, the BZRECT, and of course the UAE Falcons. Now, some really strong riders in here. The squad that are the squad to beat is UAE Falcons, because we've got Zayed Hamdan, we've got Ahmed Al Tanaj, as well as Hassan Al Rumethli, and he is going to be the man who's going to be looking to see if they can knit that together, 3 against 1 in all those other teams. Category 3. Our entry race category. Now, the squads here very hard to beat. Going to be Salam Bite squad. The Renegades very strong as well. Watch out, though, for the team from Binangal, because they're in strength in depth. They've got the big numbers. They outnumber anybody else. The maximum number you can have in your team is 5 riders. Adding to the mix, of course, are riders who are individuals in the race categories, and that will make life difficult for the teams. Remember, we have 3 race categories. Category 1, they are our riders in the yellow jerseys. They're the riders who are the strongest set of riders. Then the second category down sits in the middle, and then our third category riders. However, each of these categories are racing for points. Now, and just having a look at these riders, and you can just see Mr. X100, our rider we're featuring here, currently showing that the revs, the watts just ticking along, making sure, just getting nicely warmed up there, dead center on that start line. And remember, Mr. X100, a regular feature in the top 10 riders, consistently up there, and an aggressive rider. He sat alongside Jason Osborne, right hand side of your screen. As you look at your screen, top right hand side, you can see the map, the profile. As you look down the far right hand side, you can see the riders sat next to each other. But these riders have to take on what is an incredibly tough course. Now, how this is likely to race out, who knows? Well, we'll see. My guess is we're going to have a very hard start, an aggressive start. If you watch the MyWhoosh, and remember, you can go on to the YouTube channel and make sure you have a watch back of all of the action on MyWhoosh, the indoor cycling solution. you can see that it's ferocious from the start. Those groups likely to break up on that first part of the course, the first section through town. There's some really steep riders in there. Now, just with Bruce Bird. Bird, really, really strong rider. Bruce coming in ninth place for the draft team in the last race that we've just had. That is the last of the finals that's just gone past in that group. Pablo Popovic sat down there just warming up. It looks like all these teams are looking like they've got pretty much everybody down onto the start line nice and early. The nerves are going to be jangling. Who's going to lead them off from the gun? Will it be the UAE clan team? You know, the UAE clan team, they are so strong. They are the riders to beat in this. However, will it be SS or Mr. X100 who ride out from the start line at pace? 45k to cover into the last countdown. You can see the Watts revving up top left-hand side of your screen. The power goes down and we are away. And this is about getting the march out from the gun here. Everybody wants to be first off the line now. Two screens up and running. You can just see we're watching two of our riders simultaneously here, and that is definitely going to be interesting to see who goes. We're currently with SS now. I had the pleasure of riding with SS on the MyWhoosh's ride. That was only yesterday, and he's so strong. He's really kicking in hard. He and Mr. X100 and myself went off in a group about 4 from the front of the ride, and I soon got shelled by the power of the ride. It's really quick. And to say it was the day before the ride, Mr. X100 and SS really gave me a hard time out on that course. I soon got dropped to the chasing groups behind. Now, Philip Graves in the mix here. Interesting to watch his power numbers here, sitting at 3.6 watts per kilo. So take your mass of watts, divide them by the amount of kilos. It gives you a representative power of what you can put down. And at the moment, you can see a really early attack going clear here. As we go in, we said it was a steep start. It is. The gradient right-hand side, you can just see it changing. And at the front of the race of Mr. X100 just being passed by Philip Graves. These are team riders are yo-yoing and the battle for the front here. You can just see he's really aggressive now. Graves is going again. This is a course he likes. He was 7th last time on this climb. Graves, though, only 12th in the last final. They've opened up a gap on Van East at the moment, and Van East started to be dropped down from the Abelsler Cole squad. So is Saeed Sarfrazad. Sarfrazad really strong first rider over the line last time out. 5th last time we were on this course. He's wanting to be in the mix, but right up at the front, this group is really starting to put the pressure on behind. It is breaking. If you look top right-hand side of your screen, you'll see the dot-to-dot down that course as we move our way through downtown. So, quick start, frantic start, big talented group of riders going off from the front, and that gap behind, well, it's sat there. Look at the time gap at the moment, 3 seconds. It doesn't sound much. You can't do much in 3 seconds, but you can get a long way down the road. Sharp right-hand turn here. And this is where you get a little bit of rest. It's -3%, just dropping it down here. The legs are going to rest. Key when you're racing on a virtual platform. You've got to, in esports, take every rest you can. It's not like real life where you see the end of the road dropping down. That in real racing on the road, it's a discipline that requires skill. It requires time. And that's what these guys are spending on the platform, on MyWhoosh, making sure they get this absolutely dialed here, because this discipline requires its own set of skills. And at the moment, you can just see the real familiar names of Graves, of Bird, of Mr. X100, of SS, of Pablo Popovic, right up in the mix at the moment. And the big, strong riders are coming to the fore, but they can't be too big. If you've got excess kilos, if you are not in top condition, when you hit these hills, anything excess will burn off. I'm 85 kilos. We hit this hill, I'm giving away potentially 30 kilos to some of the lightweight riders. That pays big dividends, being like the moment you hit this hill, you'll see the lighter riders, those who've got great power to weight ratios, being able to accelerate up here. Left hand side of the screen, SS at the front group already up over the top of the crest. We're just watching Sutter behind just push this group, and he's leading through. You can just see this category 2 leaders now are working hard here, just trying to get the pressure down. They've been distanced already though, and you can see the difference between the two categories here. They're not fixed categories. The great advantage of the platform is that we have riders out and racing in groups that are responsive to the riders who enter. So group one, the fastest riders are the fastest group. Then you'll find the level behind. And at the moment, this group one, it's a strong pack here. Now, advantage for these riders, they can sit in the draft. They're very cohesive. They're working well together at the moment. They need to open the gap to the riders behind. And at the moment, you can just see the groups just on these twists and turns. It really is a real roller coaster ride on the ups and downs. And you get these twists and turns, this racetrack almost quick switch from left to right. And that really is making things difficult now. You can just see Said at the moment just trying to push on SS up onto the front now. It looks to me like this gang really are being very careful now. Who's playing it smart? Who's sitting in here and not doing too much work too early? You've already seen the UAE team in action today on the roads of the Tour of Flanders. And you've got to make sure you're watching. I'm not going to do any spoilers if you're watching this live and you haven't watched it, but it's well worth a watch to see them in action and to see what happens when the match is lit now. Through segment number one, the first of 7 segments going through already. The pace is up, and you can see as they go through all top 12s with the riders who are right up in that leading group and literally are covered by less than a second and a half. And you can see at the moment top 10 rounded down. Mistakes 100 and SS sitting in very smart. They're not doing too much work. Pablo Popovic smashing his way through there and taking that fastest segment jersey. 301 watts, but look at those numbers at the moment. They will go up substantially once we go up on to the climb. So segment number 1 done. We're going to move on from there onto 2, 3, 4, 5, and then of course the big segments as we go up onto the climb. So back with the action. Lead riders here. Popovic we're riding with. He's the man who has taken that jersey. Right hand side of the screen, you can just see that little jersey with the number 1 on. That's the indication when you're riding in the game and you're on MyWhoosh that you have jerseys for segment number 1. And as you go through the game, if you're fast enough to take those segments, if you can sweep them up, then you'll get them and they'll be listed beside your name as you go out and ride around. Now the segments are going to go to the riders in that leading group at the moment in those yellow jerseys. They're category 1 riders. Some of our category 1 riders though deposited down in category 2 as we see Popovic now putting the pressure on. He's going into this segment hard and the group behind is splitting here. So it looks to me like Phil Graves and SS Mr. X100 have gone with the break here. And they're currently sitting about 3 seconds clear of the chasers behind. 4 leading riders have gone on the offensive. They've come into this segment and they know this climb is coming. When you race on MyWhoosh, you've got to know what's in front of you. You've got to know where those climbs are. That recce is important when you're riding on an esports race, as when you are going out and you are racing out on the roads, as if you're going mountain biking, because how that terrain feels, how much pressure you've got to put on is critical. And you can see now Mr. X100 leading this breakaway. The chase behind are working to close this down. It was 3 seconds and they've pulled them back, but they've done damage. And again, now another kick, just seeing 6.8 watts per kilo coming out of Mr. X100, answered by Graves' 5 watts per kilo. Now they back off a little bit, but over the top they go again. Nobody is wanting to make it easy for that group behind. Nobody wants to tow in a big group into the finish. This is a really interesting stuff at the front of this race. Top right hand side of your screen, look at that map. You can see the leaders in that group just splitting, and they're dropping a rider now, dropping riders out of the back. There's gaps opening. The chasing group a lot further back, but that is about that kick now through segment number 2. Now comes the time and differences coming through. You can see the first 5 to 6 riders through there. Valles, Bird, Mr. X100, SS, Graves, Popovic coming in very quick behind then. That's the group that are chasing behind coming through. We saw those times land a little bit later on, and it's about getting that pressure down. Not much separating these riders at the moment through there, but look at the big numbers coming in now. 7 watts per kilo, 500 watts coming out from Stefan van Est. Remember, big pro riders, they can knock out those numbers. You see people like Christoph, who when he's been out and winning races out on the World Tour, he can put out 450 watts for something in the region of about 5 minutes. And that is some big numbers from a big sprinter. However, you can see people putting out thousands and thousands of watts. We're going to see if that's going to be the case as we come up onto the climb now. As you ride this in the race, we are steadily progressing through this course. This big climb, this big kick up at the moment, coming at 6.9k. It finishes about 7.5k into the course as you come over the top of this bridge. But the slope, the gradient is really hard here. You can see it steps. So we've done the first of the rises. We're going to level a little bit. Then there's another kicker. And then we're up on the top. At the moment, Graves is trying to put the pressure on. We're riding in with Van Aest at the moment. 330 watts top left-hand side at that heart rate. 168 beats a minute. He's absolutely knocking this. Group's going incredibly well. They're really opening the gap behind. The chasers, though, working really hard. And they know that if they drop down, once we come through this, our next really flat section, we drop off the back of this bridge and we're going to drop down to the flat. You've got to make the most of this climb. As you drop down, easy to think, oh, ease off the pedals on the downhill. When that happens, somebody else will be giving it gas. And you can just see the riders now having to watch what's going on. A real mix here. Nair in here, Safrazad in here, X100, Van Aest, Bushmuller. I saw them right at the start. Podlin in this group as well. It's 3 seconds back to De Roost, and Popovic at the moment is distance from this group. The man who's been right up there, he was third when we got to the top of the climb. Last time we came up to the top of the course at the finish. I mean, last time we used this same route. At the moment, he's not in that mix. He has been dispatched by the power. And at the moment, the UAE clan are depositing one of their own out of the back. SS, Mr. X100 and Saeed Safrazad are losing the rider that gave them such a good result last time. He's being pushed back out of contention as Mr. X100 goes on 8 watts per kilo. I've just seen come out at the top there. He's come into this little kicker. You've seen that little bit of a push. Graves goes over the top. These two battle it out. Some great fights between these two. When you watch the videos on the MyWhoosh YouTube channel, make sure you subscribe because it gives you so much detail. Now Graves goes through. He's got 1 second, and I think there's some smart riding behind. I think people just are sitting and waiting. They know they've got to be in the draft. If you are on the front, you're pushing all of that air out. It's all being moved aside. You've got to be in the draft if you're smart. You don't want to do too much work. If you've got 6, 7 riders, the leading group here with SS, Mr. X100 and Phil Graves in, they've got 8, 9 riders in there pushing really hard. That's great once you're into those kind of figures. At the moment, that group comparison of 7 riders. Behind Pablo Popovic's group, he's only got 3 riders with him in total. In fact, I think he's now only 2 riders by the look of it, and that means that they're having to do almost double the work because there's just not as many bodies to push the air out of the way. However, they've got 38, nearly 40 seconds on the chasers. Those chasers are led by De Roost, and that means that once that gap has opened up, it really is starting to stretch out. Now, remember, the Able rider, De Roost, he's an A category rider. He's in Group 3. Group 2 on the road, it's the Pablo Popovic group. They're leading the group. You can see them on your screen now. Van Aest is on the attack again. The Belgium absolutely pushing, but taking the top. Who's going to take the front of that segment? They've just come through. I think it's going to be Graves at the top. Let's have a look. Oh, Van Aest has got that. He pushed from further back, although he wasn't first over the line. Remember, those first 6, these are the only 6 riders who've gone through, and you see what a gap they've got on Popovic. We're waiting for his times to come up on the screen for segment 3. Now they come. So it looks like Mel, Odlin, Bushmuller come through on the chase behind. 3 riders riding very close. They've got to close that gap down. At the moment, Phil Graves has got no teammates in the front group. It is much further down to get his teammates for Mer and Odlin. Van Aest has got nobody in sight really at the moment. The big team scoring up in that front group. It is the UAE clan team with SS Mr. X 100 in there. really are pushing. They've got two riders that are working really well on that front, but don't discount Graves. He's working incredibly strongly at the moment now. Mr. X100 goes over onto the top. Phil Graves is there. Safrazad is in the mix for the team as well, for that clan team. They're pushing hard, and you can just see as you run down this section, it's now really, really flat. You think time to recover, time to breathe, sit behind a rider. If you are a good time trial rider, you will sit there and you'll push and you'll make everyone else suffer. But it's hard because when you're at the back, you're taking recovery. You're able to get really, really entertaining because these slopes are steep. They're not the average just alpine climbs. They're really, really tough, and they come one after the other. The roller coaster drop downs in, you've got to really push as well. So riding these is key. Now, if you go onto MyWhoosh, get that app, make sure you get it in and get riding. If you want to come and race an event like this, you've got to get the kilometers in. You've got to make sure you get this climb dialed as you come on to the dunes, because it makes such a big difference to know when to push hard. In we go into the segment here. This is going to be the kick into segment 4. Doesn't look too bad at the moment, does it? You think, yeah, I'm not going to be too hard. Here we go. Gradient starting to come in the right hand side. It starts to push. It starts to climb. Now, this is where SS and Mr. X100 were flying yesterday. They absolutely came out of this turn. I got them held at a few seconds. Now they start to push hard here. And you can see on the front, Graves is really winding this up on the right-hand side screen. You can see the chasers coming through the entranceway, the 6 leaders on the climb here. So it is now SS, Graves, Mr. X100, Bruce Bird, Safrazad in there behind Mel. Working hard. He's got Odlin. He's got, looks like Deep Rose is a bit further back. 4 riders together now, and Van East in this group continuing to push, but these are your chasers. The steep section here, the first of those roller coaster steep kicks has gone. Over the top they go, and a little bit of too much of a look back there, I think, for Safrazad. He just lost a little bit of time going over the top, and you can just see SS Mistakes 100 very quickly responding to that, and the pressure is on now. Safrazad using that draft to come on. This is flat. It's 0%. But guess what comes? Another roller and another kicker. And they are looking to really hurt each other here at the moment. Mr. X100 goes up onto the front. He puts another big dig going up over that climb. What damage can he do? He's opening up the seconds behind, and you can see this group is fracturing under the pressure. Graves is responding. He's having to close this gap down. He's got up to nearly 8 watts per kilo to get that gap closed down. He goes over the top. Can he carry that momentum? He does. On his heels comes SS. Over the top of Graves goes SS. And this kicker now, this really hurts because your legs are absolutely screaming. And the next climb comes. Here he goes. X100 closes on to SS and Graves now. These seem to be our 3 strongest riders of the moment. This next kicker comes in 7% as you go up and over the top. We drop down into the dunes past the Bedouin Tents on the left-hand side here of the course. We're going to kick up on to the climb now. We've got 4 riders together. Nair and Safrazad at the moment have been distanced. And at the moment, I think Safrazad not able to keep that pace. We'll keep an eye on those timings. So SS continues to push. Now we're back to 5 riders. Remember, this group has whittled down. This initial early kicker of a start really is taking its toll on the riders. And all the time we are losing rider after rider. And this is just the entree. It's not the main course. That comes when we come on to the empty mountain, when we hit the far side. But at the moment, you can just see Mr. X100 really must be inspired by the riding today. I think these riders must have been watching and mainly on the real fast stuff that was coming out of the Tour of Flanders. These kick after kick after kick. Some amazing rides by the squads out there. The UAE table working to perfection. I'm not going to tell you whether it comes to a good conclusion or not. Make sure you go give that a watch because it's amazing racing. Just like we've got here, Bruce Bird now coming on. Bird is a real cagey one. He's not doing too much work on the front, but now he starts to push in through that checkpoint. Is he going to take that fastest time? So here on MyWhoosh next section, so it does go to Bruce Bird of the draft squad. He's only got Bushmiller for his teammate. So in that leading group of now 5 riders, 1 draft rider, 1 Yorkshire Pudding Express, the shape of Phil Graves. We've got the UAE clan team with Mr. X100SS and Zach Nair for the next PB ensured, chasing down Bruce Bird, the draft rider who took that fastest time. A great result. Now, this is going to give us an indication of where the gap is. Great to see the graphic on your right and the graphic on your left. That gives you the distance between, because you can see our leading group have gone through and completed that segment. They're well down the road. This really has opened up, and these 4 leading riders have motored the way clear, and it looks to me like Mr. X100 at the moment. I think he's just dropping for his teammate here, because at the moment it's SS who's been the distance back, and is this smart teammate riding going on here, because he's maybe looking to pull SS back into the fold. Those gaps had opened up. SS has got to make contact. You can't afford to lose that draft as they head out. Now you can see the kilometers ticking away on the top right hand side. We're at 16 kilometers at the moment, and we have a little bit of flat at the moment, and now SS is coming. He's going to regain that group, and that drop back, it's like leaving a trail of breadcrumbs. If you remember the fairy tale Hansel and Gretel, where they had a trail of breadcrumbs to go. Well, so long as nobody snaffles them up before you, you can use that, just like using the draft to make your way onto the back. So if you have a teammate up there and they drop back, they give you that extra draft, you get that extra speed in. It means you don't have to work quite as hard. You don't do all of the work to come in. And that's where it pays to have the 2 teammates from the UAE clan team up here in this leading a group of 5. And SS drops off the back. Got to get this just right. If you watch a team pursuit on the track, you see the riders, they pull off by going up the track. They do that so that they don't lose any speed. The extra distance by going up the track brings them back down in behind. They don't have to slow down at all, but they go from the front to the back. Now, when you're riding on MyWhoosh, when you're riding on your turbo trainer in your room, whether that is a pain cave and you're sheltering from the snow of Sheffield, or whether you are sheltering from the sun of the coast of the Emirates. So you really do have to make sure that what you're doing is getting the draft right, coming out of the pack, sheltering behind and getting back in nice and smoothly. You don't want to put too much effort down. Every time you push harder on those pedals, every time you expend more watts, you're going to be in trouble. And then you've got to pick it back up again. And it's a really fine art. This discipline, esports discipline, really is really about being able to fine-tune those efforts and know when to go, just like any discipline, whether it's the track, the cross, the mountain bike. Now, dropping back here, we have dropped back into Group 2. Now, Group 2 has basically not grown because there are riders coming from behind. This really has grown because riders have been distanced off the front. So at the moment, Saeed Safrazad just dropping back into that group after being distanced, but holding that pace. And he's going to be one of the strong riders in this group now. Now, this group could not be discounted. Bushmill, a teammate of Bert up in front. You've got Medal in here. You've got Odlin in here as well. Remember, Odlin in there, teammate of Graves on that Yorkshire Pudding Express team. Van East in here as well from the Abus LeCole squad. Now, these chasing riders, that gap, though, it's substantial, and they've got a decent space to the riders behind as well. You can watch on the watts here. You can watch the pressure. Phil Graves again. This man is giving it incredibly tough efforts on the front. He's started to pull clear again, and you can see those numbers are coming in. He's up in the 5 to 6 watts per kilo. He's not making it easy for them as they come into and through the segment line. So, starting out on to the next of our segments. Now, big splitter that's going to come, our next part of the course that is going to be difficult. We're currently in the flatlands. We're currently traveling out up towards the point where we go up onto our next bridge. That is going to make things really hard for our riders. A gap between the 2 groups, definitely going a little bit further back. You can see the leaders here in our category 2 race. We just riding in with Hassan Aramethi. Currently pushing at 4.1 watts per kilo. good sized group here though, and this is about making sure you work really, really well with each other here. Nobody will want to do too much effort, because if they do, they will find themselves at a distance from the group. They won't be able to stay with that group. However, you can just see at the moment that this group, they're working okay, but nothing that is going to drag them right up to the front group. We're seeing some good numbers though here. So we're looking at 3.2s, 3.6s, 3.9s as they try to push on here. You can just see riders resting at nearer the 2 watts per kilo. Back with the front group, Mr. X100 at the moment featured 455 watts here. Big kick from this leading group. This is the next kicker. The bridge here, it kicks in. It's nearly 2 kilometers from the start of the ascent to the drop down the far side. You can see it coming up over the top of the water. It then drops off the far side, and it's about pushing over the top now. If you watch Mr. X100 SS here, clearly regularly riding on, this Bruce Bird doing the same, come over the top, and they keep that effort going as they go over the top. Mr. X100 at the moment, 6.8, 6.9 watts per kilo. He's putting a big dig in as he's gone over the top here. He's seen the gap. He's trying to open this up a bit. SS behind, 5 watts per kilo. It's his teammate. He's not going to do too much work. Graves is aware of that. He takes some of that slipstream through. He speeds through, but doesn't have enough power to go back onto the wheels. And now look at SS going over the top. He saw Graves coming back. He pushes, but Mr. X100 at the moment, 6.7 watts per kilo on the front. Chase is on behind, 4 riders behind. And the UAE clan are not going to do this work. They're just not going to push the nose out into the wind to chase their rider in front. Great move by them. Now Bruce Bird goes. Graves is sat behind. Graves puts out, seen 8.6 come from Graves. He's just coming up over the top of Bruce Bird. They're trying to use each other. They're being patrolled though. SS watching every single move here, just with Nair at the moment. Zach Nair just continues to push. Nair from the next PB and Short team, trying to close the gap. But Bruce Bird here is going to come back on. I think this group are just going to close down. And is that mission accomplished? You're just watching SS come through, 10.6 down. Classic counter attack over the top. The UAE clan team have done a classic 1-2 here. You can just see Mr. X100 had just got pulled back. The team put a counter attack. Bruce Bird has to answer that. Now he goes over the top, and this is about having the legs to get back in. You've done attack after attack. You've got to close that down. SS in danger. 1 second down. They go through that checkpoint, and he's got to get back on fast now. Times over there. Brutal over the top. Bruce Bird takes another jersey, though. You can just see Bruce Bird, the draft rider, coming through, but he's only fractions there, tenths of seconds separated most of those riders through. But an absolutely ferocious segment 5. Segment 5, remember, they don't count for anything in the racing. They give us a real good indicator, though, of who's working, what that result looks like, who's in that leading group. 5 riders in the lead of the race in Category 1. Category 2 leaders much further back at the moment. Category 3 even further still. We do have individuals, but it shows you these teams. It pays to be a team. Get into a MyWhoosh team. Get yourself joined in with them. It makes life so much better if you can jump in now behind. You can just see big kick coming up over the top here. Massive watts per kilo coming out here. Hassan Al-Rathi goes over the top, trying to go clear here. You can just see real big effort going in, and looks like Simmons is going to close down. Ilpino Arrego closing on the back wheels here. Popovic is up the road, as is Van East. The leaders, though, continue onwards, and now they know that they have still got more of the smaller kickers to go. We're coming back into town once again. We're going to head through the buildings, through the urban section. So at the moment, our riders are going through completing those segments one by one. The key point where you need to be, it's at the finish line at the top of the Alp de Hafid, the Jebel Hafid, the empty mountain. Well, who can empty the tank and get the timing right? Who is going to blow on those brutal slopes as we rise out from Alain up on to the top of the mountain through this UNESCO site, part of this amazing heritage that is all in and around the United Arab Emirates. And you can just see these riders already are pushing to get the gap on the rest. They've opened it up. They can't afford to hesitate. They don't want rolling on the line. They don't want closing down. They don't want to let a good climber come back towards them. And this is where the strong riders really can shed anybody behind who might challenge. Take the left-hand turn now in. It is 22.5 kilometers under the wheels for Mr. X100. A rider we're watching, they're all on that same distance. He now moves through to the front here. He's going to lead them up on to the slope. No, fantastic competitive race up at the front. The chase behind. Those chases aren't giving up. They're continuing to push, but you can see that they are now 1.3k behind Group 1. Group 1 on the climb, going up onto the bridge. Group 2 still downtown, still on the flatlands. They're well over a kilometer behind. And remember, this is separated. The leaders are on the climb and they're not breaking here. This is a strong performance by all of the lead group. Great racing here. 5 leaders gone clear, broken the group of that initial kickers, the initial bumpy section, and taking these riders clear with that power, with that pace, with the ability to ride and to measure their effort, not expend too much energy too soon, but to stay now in that leading group. And this is where we watch to see who has got that pro legs behind. The chase is on. You can see the down on the coastline is on top of that bridge, on top of that elevated roadway. The distance between them, 1.2 kilometers, separating Group 1 to Group 2. And at the moment, it is Saeed Safrazad who's doing the chase in that Group 2, because it looks like Mel and Odlin have pushed on at the moment. That they've got to be careful. They can't afford to give Saeed too much rest here. He's just closing. He's nicely sat behind. He's taking that draft here. And this means that he's going to have something to kick up the climb. Meanwhile, Group 1, Bruce Bird again. He wants that lead. He's trying to go clear. But this Group 2 at the moment, Saeed is sitting behind now. Has he rested? Is he going to go on the offensive? Is he going to go on the attack? Bird at the front group has gone on that downhill. He's got a 5-second lead at the moment, in theory, from everybody else. You can see the group behind. They have the advantage in terms of aerodynamics, and that's where MyWhoosh plays out those really accurate aerodynamics, testing our riders who are all verified. They're all checked to make sure we're not just talking waves, we're talking double power analysis, we're talking post-race verification of the results. All of our riders checked on the way through to make sure that this is a real performance, and that's the strength of MyWhoosh. It gives you that knowledge that you're up and racing against people who can really put the power down. Bruce Bird at the moment, he's gone, and the chase is on behind. You can see what that distance is, and now SS is on the way. He goes at 9 watts per kilo to come after Bruce Bird. Birdie's putting the effort in here. You can just see brilliant shot back. Remember, cameras always foreshorten it to the group behind. That gap's 3 seconds to SS. It's 5 seconds, nearly 6 seconds to the group behind. And it looks to me like Mr. X100 has been very careful. He didn't do too much work to close his teammate down, but when it was clear the gap wasn't coming down enough, he's going up. He's going to give some assistance. Now here comes the group. They're going to come up onto SS. These 4 riders are going to be together. Birdie's up the road. Remember, Bruce Bird, he is one of those riders who you can never discount. 9th in our last race, last weekend. 9th rider in and over the line. Those results are still in the unofficial stage. We have 2 stages. We have the unofficial, and then we have the verified results, just like you would have subject to verification by a commissaire team. And that's exactly the same. Make sure you go onto the MyWhoosh.com page, click onto race results, and you can see all of those results on there. Now, Bird, a real fast rider. Bruce Bird, 8th when we were on the climb, finishing up at Jebel Hafit last time. However, looks to me like some of the people he has taken on are going to be really challenging here. You can see Phil Graves in the chasing group. Mr. X100, who just comes up on to his shoulder and then sits. Make sure he doesn't do too much work here. You've got Zach in here as well. And that is going to be an interesting result. Bird at the moment with that gap. So SS sat in here. He's one of those riders who could be very, very close to the top. Last week, he was 7th in the race last week. Will he be in that top 10? Remember, the first rider in and over the line. Some big prizes available when we go to our racing of 3 qualifiers, 2 out of 3 to be ridden and have official results confirmed on before our riders qualify for that final race. At the moment, who's going to take away the honours? Who's going to have the bragging rights? Who is going to be the rider who's going to take this over the line? Now, we just got a good indication between the 2 groups. Graves on the front, 3 seconds now, 4 seconds from Graves back there, trying to put in an attack on the UAE clan, because that UAE clan team, they know that they've got 2 really strong riders with SS and Mr. X100. They're leading that chase. Now, Zach right in the mix. The next PB ensured rider really is working with this group, trying to close that gap down. So Zach Nair, 17th in the race last week in the finals, now in the mix in that top 5. He's up against Bird, who was 9th. He's up against SS, who was 7th. Mr. X100, who came over the line in 11th place. They are the riders who are right up in the fight at the front. Phil Grace, 12th place. All these riders, though, I think really are going to be fighting all the way into the line, but who can hold it? This is really aggressive. It's really doing damage as SS now goes on the front, being chased here by Graves. Our clock with 27k on the clock, and we're coming into the next section of rise and fall. It is not flat by any stretch of the imagination. This next section, we drop down, it picks back up again, we drop down, and you can just see these riders are being very, very careful. Now, Mr. X100 at the moment, just not wanting to leave his teammate behind. It looks to me like he's just dropped off. We saw him drop to 1 watt per kilo on that descent, just waiting to pick up SS. Now he carries that momentum, and it looks to me like he's going to be kicking to go with the group here. And the man who's in trouble at the moment is Bruce Bird. Bird has gone off to the back of this group behind Said Safrazad, looking like they're coming into the section. That gap now between our 2 groups, it's heading out for the 2k markers. Bird, Graves, SS, Mr. X100 leading over the top. They've got Nair in there. There's nothing to choose between these 5 riders in terms of who's going to take that overall victory. And you wouldn't want to stake your house on any of these riders at the moment, because it is a real battle. Fantastic racing at the front of the MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club men's race here, live on the MyWhoosh YouTube channel. Our leaders, 5 leaders on the front left-hand side of your screen, right-hand side of your screen. You can see the chasing group here. But can he close the gap down? Just watching the battle, watching the fight continue onwards. These riders are working their way out and around the course. At MyWhoosh, go on to the MyWhoosh website, mywhoosh.com. Pick up all of the details of racing. You can jump on to the mywhoosh.com website to make sure you register. It's a really simple process to do so. All of our riders have done it. You go on, you put in your name, your weight, your height. From that, the computer systems, the systems at MyWhoosh work out exactly how your avatar, and that's the figure that you see on the screen, because we don't all look like our avatars. We look close, but some of us don't look quite as thin as our avatars when we are in real life. It depends on what we're wearing, but the avatar represents you and out on the course. So at the moment, the riders are working to keep that gap right down between Group 1 and 2. Group 1, though, trying to stretch this out. Mr. X100 SS Bruce Bird, Zach Nem, Phil Graves are leading a group of 5 with the gap back. That gap continues to open out. Remember, the final race, well, that is going to be in effectively after our next 2 qualifying weekends, qualifiers 2 and 3. Now, our gaps, so you can see the segment of 5 leading riders, 2 from the UAE clan, Mr. X100 and SS, 1 rider from Yorkshire Pudding Express, Phil Graves in there, PB ensured Zach Nair, and then it is the draft rider Bruce Bird. Those are our leading 5 riders that go through segment number 6, and they're heading out our next big challenge. The next is on the climb of the moment. Our riders just heading in to Ferrari. Going to be heading back out again. Mr. X100 continues to push in this leading group at the moment. It is definitely looking like it's tough out there. These riders working hard to keep this gap closed down. The chasing riders a long, long way back, though, at the moment. Now we pick back up again, up at the front of the race. Our leaders back onto that flatter section. So great racing so far. The chasing group are working well. They don't have the strength that our leaders of Bird, Mr. X100, Graves, Net, and SS have. They are our leaders. You can just see that pressure really coming on. So just watching these riders, it's certainly looking like these group they go in just one those minutes, 100 close. I get look at the time. It's going to be best minutes from our back through. So as we a little bit about time, remember the going up on the climb, long climb. Once 33k marker, we climb all the way to 40 kilometers, 45k at that finishing point. It really is a crunch where these riders push on all the way up to the top of the climb. So our riders working smoothly here. Remember, these teams with between 3 and riders have to get a score for themselves, but they're also looking to take away a team victory. Look at the race, really tough stuff. Just how fast it is. Our chasing a group behind going down in towards that Ferrari garage. The riders are continue to push here really hard. So just watching Zach now at the moment as they come through. Zach Bird, Grace SS, Mr. X100 looking good. Certainly it looks to me like they are going to be our riders who are going to be contesting the finale. That gap now at well over 3 minutes between our leading 5 riders. We're just watching those chase riders behind, and it looks to me like they're not going to be in the mix, but they're going to be in a battle. Remember, all these riders, they want to put in a great result. They want to get to that finish. They've got their own private battles wherever you are in the race, or whether you are at the front or at the back of the pack. There's always somebody to race against. This is a great thing. You don't have to go searching out around the country for riders who you want to race against. The big advantage, we pull in riders from all over the globe. Look at those different flags. Right hand side, we're bringing in riders from outside of the usual scene. Get to race against each other. You've got Phil Graves here, the Yorkshire Pudding Express rider, a rider who actually seen out racing in real life, out racing at the moment against our riders from the States in the shape of Zach Ned, up against our Emirates riders, as well as our riders racing from all around, everywhere from Norway right the way through to New Zealand. You can just see everybody in this battle on the MyWhoosh platform. So we're seeing the team working well here. The UAE clan have 2 riders, and this is going to be doing their race results real good indeed, because the way the race results work, your fastest 3 riders in the team. If you've got 5 riders, your fastest 3 riders. If you've got 3, well, it's just those 3. Those times that go together to make up your race time. Now, the UAE clan team with Mr. X100 and SS in here, both racing for the same team. They're not leading a group. This means that their team, for the first 2 riders, are going to be at least 2 minutes clear of Bird and Grace. Remember, they're not going to, some of our riders are not going to be in the mix here. Yorkshire Pudding Express. So Graves has a team of 3 or more. However, it looks like Zach Nair can't be in the mix for the team result, and that's quite simply because as they continue to push onwards here, he hasn't got enough teammates. It means he's riding just for individual glory at the moment. Now, Bruce Bird pushes up the road again. He's gone hard here. We're at 34.2k. So 34.2k at the moment. We're not far off the start of the climb. We hit that ascent, and remember, we come out over the turn. The sign's on the right-hand side now. This climb begins by going up onto the race. The race going up onto this race, this elevated roadway. So the kick in here by Bird. He's gone early on the climb, but look at this now. SS Mr. X100 as well as Graves responding. We go over the elevated roadway. We then get another kick to come up on to the climb of Jebel Hafid, one of the absolutely classic riding climbs. It is a huge climb up to the top. We are going to be nailing these 11k really, really quickly. Remember, we finish at 45k, so coming into 10k to go. All right, it's about to hit the 10k to go marker, and this is quick here at the moment. You can just see the pace is on. They're already ascending at some speed as they go up this climb. Well, we're just taking a little bit of a quick check on those power numbers as they come up here, and you can see we're coming into the start of segment 7. Sector 7 on the way up the climb is the first part of the climb. It finishes before the summit, and because of that, it means it gives us a good indicator who's going well early. But remember, this is about who's first across the line. That time across the line is critical. Mr. X100 leading up his teammate SS second in line at the moment. Graves and Bird, along with Net, are pushing hard at the moment. They want to be right up at the front of this as we go past. Now, on the right and left-hand side, you can see the beehive tombs. These are 5 1,000 years old. This climb on MyWhoosh, inspired by the Jebel Hafid, the empty mountain climb. It does this as it comes out from Al Ain, the UNESCO site. It's got so many registered areas within that site that are all part of the World Heritage Site here. And with the 5,000-yard twos just past, our riders now start to climb once again and coming in between the edges of the gorge. And this, of course, very much how the climb is. It has a little kicks on the way up, but it's a constant grind, a constant gradient. There is nowhere to hide on this climb. It's a climb that's used in the Tour of the UAE. It's a climb that a lot of the team riders know well when they've been out there. It's brutally hot climb when you're climbing it in the world outside of MyWhoosh. I think our riders are going to be cooking at the moment because they are really absolutely piling on the gas at the moment, trying to keep that speed high. They're still doing 40 kilometers an hour, so over 25 miles an hour for the leading group. They're on the climb. The chasing group behind, well, it looks to me like that pressure has come off. They now number at least 6 riders now in the chasing group, but they are still heading out to the climb. They're at 33.4k, and they're nearly 2k down now on our leaders. Just as importantly, in terms of time for that team categorization, they are also losing big time, and it could well be this UAE clan who's got to score big on that team category at the moment. The teams are racing for themselves and for their team now. Gray's going in pursuit of Mr. X100. He just goes over the side. Mr. X100 quickly kicks again up over the top of the second group. Now hit the base of the climb. They are coming up on to the elevated roadway. This is really tough stuff here. As they make their way up onto the climb, we can see the lead at the moment with Mr. X100, 6.7, 6.8 watts per kilo. He's piling the pressure on here. Anybody got a snap at the moment? It's still 5 riders. SS answers it. He puts in 7.4. He goes over the top of Bird. These 5 are incredibly closely matched as they come up this climb. 5 absolutely class athletes leading this race out on MyWhoosh at the moment. 53 minutes of racing complete, and still they're piling on the pressure on each other here as they come up. We're at 30 kph. We're on a 4% slope nearly here, and this is where it starts to really hurt, but you've got to dig deep. You can see these riders are still continuing to push, nearly 6 watts per kilo as they come up. Now it eases back down to a 0.60%. We've got a little bit of a slight drop at the moment. When you come back down the other side off this mountain, if you come down when you're riding on MyWhoosh, you've got the little kick there. It's horrible coming back down. This way gives you a little bit of a rest. You think it doesn't. It breaks that rhythm. And this is where riding on the MyWhoosh platform, on the MyWhoosh app, it really does give you that regular use, gives you that regular knowledge, gives you that inside depth that can give you the way to ride the climb, when to kick hard, when to rest, because it's absolutely key when you're on the limit. And these 5 riders at the moment are leading this race up here at a phenomenal pace. 37.5, nearly 38 kilometers. Oh, I thought Bruce Bird was going to go out the back of the group there at the moment with the pressure being applied on the front. It looks like they're back together again. This is very, very close indeed. Nothing to choose between the riders here at the moment, and you can just see behind. It looks like a Bushmuller just starting to put the pressure onto the group behind. Bushmuller, Mel, and Safrazad Odlin are going clear at the moment. They are starting to break group number 2. So group 2 fracturing as it makes its way. It's gone up the initial climb onto the roadway. It's done the next kicker up and past the tombs, and now making the way in to the upper sections. Top of the climb often compared to the top of the Von 2. You leaders at the moment on the left screen, the group 2 on the right screen, and we're back with our leaders as Mr. X100 again puts in another big dig here. 38 kilometers on the clock. The chase behind. Well, the chasers in the main chase group now at 4 minutes on our race leaders. The 5 riders at the front of this our breakaway group. 2 from the UAE clan team, 1 from Next PB Short, and 1 from the Yorkshire Pudding Express. Grace from Yorkshire Pudding Express sits second wheel, just drops to third wheel. Moves back up again. Mr. X100 just sitting at the front. He really is setting a tempo up here that he's making them all work hard here. And nothing to choose at the moment. Nobody has gone pop. And how long can these riders keep this pace up under this incessant pressure? You can just see the riders at 32 kilometers per hour at the moment. You see the watts are coming down from those riders. It is absolutely flying. 400 plus watts coming out from SS as we go up around this right hand turn, coming up for 39k, 56 minutes of racing, and that pace has come up. Look at that heart rate, 155 beats per minute. I'm not surprised we come up past the lay-by. You can just see we're going to come in underneath this right hand MyWhoosh banner. And the MyWhoosh banner, the same logo you'll see on those UAE jerseys. If you watch by the Flanders, definitely an indicator when you're riding. Mr. X100 knows where this is. He's ridden this so many times before. He's got to make sure he gets his timing right. 3.6 at the moment, Mr. X100. Then SS, then Zach Nair, Bruce Bird, Phil Graves continue to push in up this right-hand turn here. Now you can see the roadway above, the rock scarp above has got the banners on there. We go round our long sweeping right, our tighter left-hand turn as we come around these hairpin turns. They're almost alpine-like. The difference is it's 40 plus degrees, or when you go to the UAE, our riders very rarely use this in the middle of the day. They say Mammon and English in the midday sun. Well, don't forget you can cash it up with the GCN crew. They rode up here as part of their coverage and absolutely cut all the way up there. Make sure you have a watch back of the footage of our racing on MyWhoosh, because it has got some great footage on those YouTube channels. You can just see, but I'm not sure I've seen a race quite as close as this, coming into the finish with 5 riders locked together, the gap at 3 minutes. Mayor, Bush, Muller, Safrazad all working hard. D Rose behind, trying to squeeze. Now SS goes on the attack. 8 watts per kilo. He's gone again. The clan teammates taking a turn, I think, on the attack here. Bruce Bird's going to try and answer this. Mr. X100 was setting a ferocious pace on the front, and it then meant that SS was taking a little bit of recovery. And at the moment, the damage is being done here. Graves is now on the back foot, and the gap has started to open here. We'll watch those time checks on the right-hand side. You can see the distance on your map, but just as important, you can see it on your screen. As we come up, this is for the checkpoint. This is up to the top of segment 7. Remember, the climb continues to the full 45k, so we still have plenty of distance to get in over the line. Let's have a look at those time gaps. It is the man from the UAE clan team, SS, coming through 381 watts, 5.9 watts per kilo as they go through the line there. Then it's Bruce Bird, Zach Nair, Philip Grace, and Mr. X100, the man who sat on the front for a lot of that climb. Certainly just watching his teammate go up there, but that is what teammates are for. They're there to make sure that you can work together. You get the most out of this. Now, SS in the lead. Birdie's chasing hard behind. This is really going to get close, I think. We're just taking this left-hand turn up onto the climb here. And you can see SS on the front. He knows how far he's got to go. It's still so far. It opens out the climb at the moment as you come through them. We narrow through the gorges. We go back out into the open. This is a really frantic stuff. Now, you can see it is SS with the lead. Bruce Bird trying to bridge across. Zach Nair, Mr. X100 and Phil Grace, a group of 3. Second group now on the road. The leaders split into 2. And this is where Mr. X100 currently playing that teammate has to watch what SS is doing at the front, who's gone down the road. He will want to stay in contention. He will want to hurt Grace. He'll want to hurt Nair. However, he can't go too hard because the rise in front, it really does make for some really tactical racing. SS and Bird locked together in the race at the front. Bird going over the top of SS. Behind Mr. X100, Philip Grace, along with Zach Nair in the pursuit behind. You can just see on those screens the difference in power between the two, and the difference in speed almost matched what for what at time. but you can see the difference at the moment. It's about 100 meters on the course between the front group and the second group on the row. Big watts coming out from both groups. So this isn't over till we hit the line, till we go over the top, till we reach the very top of the Jebel Hafid, the empty mountain. Watching our riders empty the tanks here as they give it absolutely everything on this climb. Our leader is currently a Bruce Bird, SS sitting in second wheel at the moment. That is Mr. X100, Philip Graves and Zach Net in that order. But the chasing group of three are close together. They could close this gap down. It's not going to be over till they hit the top. Still lots of distance to the summit. Remember, our leaders currently with about 100 meters lead. That's all from group of one to group two now. Bird goes again. SS trying to close the gap. Mr. X100 leading the chasers. This is the chasing group on your screen. 771 meters of climbing covered. Remember, we're going to hit that 1,000-meter mark when we get to the top. We've got so much climbing to do, and the very last part of this climb, having suffered up it, it is steeper than steep. It goes to 11% at the top of this climb, and it really hurts the legs at the end of the effort. Then it levels, and your legs go to jelly. They've still got that to do. They know they've got that, and they're having to give it everything. Bruce Bird has got on the attack. SS is coming behind him. The question is, can he keep him at bay? The gap is currently only about 5 seconds between them, but Bruce Bird is looking to take a victory. The rider who moved from the back of the field to the front, jumped into that leading group, has now gone clear at the front, and Bruce Bird riding for that draft squad. He's leading his teammate Bushmuller. He's leading the group that were chasing for so long. He's in the mix behind them, but it looks to me like Van Ismail Deep Rose could well finish in front. The chase behind Mr. X100 trying to close down on SS here. He can see the two leaders in front. It looks like he's dropped Graves here. Just taking a look at those time gaps. Net and Graves are together behind X100, but Mr. X100 currently trying to close that gap onto teammate SS. He stopped, he waited, he let the gap go. Now he's pushing on here. He's got a kick across to his teammate Bruce Bird. Looking behind at the moment, you can see how much height they've gained. This is brutal. We're still 2.4K, nearly 2.5K to the summit. To the finish line here. They are working to get this closed down at the moment. It is at 3%, nearly 4% gradient as they come in. And these riders really are absolutely nailing the exit to this long sweeping right-hand bend now. Now Graves come up on X100, and it looks like they're going to go past SS. It looks like that is going to be pop for the Lake Series. Done his work as Bruce Bird leads this out at the front of the race. Mr. X100 is going to have to try and close this down now. Well, SS had a massive drop. There could be a technical dropout. Remember, just like you get, your peloton on a road race, just like you could have on the track and from a start gate, you can have mechanical issues. It can happen when you're riding and you're cycling. It could be your turbo. It could well be the net, could be the bike. We've seen people have problems literally breaking bars, ripping stems apart, breaking the bike. Such is the power that goes down from the riders. So Bruce Bird is taking advantage. He's got the gap at the moment behind them. Mr. X100 leading that chasing group with Graves and Ned. Then SS 4 seconds behind. Bird leading at the front of the race. So you can see the gap between them now. Our two screens showing. And these watts at the moment, if anything, there's more what's coming out. Group 2 than group number 1 as they come up here. Bird has put a lot down. Has he got enough left to finish this off as he comes up towards finish? He's now with 1.6. But if you've watched any tour coverage, if you've watched anything in a climb, you'll know that when you're on the limit, this is when the time changes, is when the gaps open, and this is when you can lose huge amounts of time. You could be in the lead by minutes and it can disappear. As the chasers come behind, they can close that gap down very, very fast indeed. Our leader coming in to the tight left-hand horseshoe. All right, turn that follows is a lot more sweeping, and then it straightens back out again. At the moment, these leaders working the way in and around. So around that tight horseshoe now, taking the slightly wider right-hand turn. Bird with the lead. The chase is on behind Nair Graves and X100 ahead at the moment of SS, who fought his way up that climb. He went clear. He went for glory. Not going to be his day today. I think that's just too much to claw back against Bird. But the three riders behind are Graves, Nair, and X100, Mr. X100, Philip Graves, and Zach Nair. The riders from the UAE, from Great Britain, and from America could close down on our race leader, whose home is on MyWhoosh at the moment now. This is a kick up to the rock arch coming up. This feels like it takes room. You're on the limit. You're pushing right at the front. Bruce Bird is hitting that behind the chase is coming. You can see the difference in your screens at the moment as they come through. There's about two flag lengths between them in these arches as they come in and through. Who's got the finish now as you come up onto this section? It shows who currently only got, say Bird's only got 1%. It's about 3% for the chasing group with X100. But look what's in front. And this is make or break. This climb will absolutely tear the legs out. If you're weak now, it's going to show, because this is a big, steep kicker coming in. It's not just 1, 2. It goes into double figures here. And you've got to be able to hold it to the line. You could lose a whole month's worth of time up there, but this is about the pressure, and everybody's giving it everything they've got left. Bird comes up onto the summit. He's kicking hard. Nair Graves, X100 SS coming into that section. You can just see Nair is on the pursuit of Bird. The gap is coming down. Is Bird going to be able to hold this to the line? Zach Nair's coming in. Bruce Bird has got the gap. He's got to take the left-hand turn. It's about halfway round this turn on the left-hand side. Bird leading. He's got the gap. Victory in qualification number 1 goes to Bruce Bird, our first rider in through the line. Second rider over the line is Zach Nair of the United States. Philip Graves comes through in 3rd place. An amazing ride here by our top 5 riders, with Mr. X100 secure in that 4th place spot. Comes through. Amazing work done by all 5 riders, absolutely blitzing their way up this climb. So next up, it is going to be SS chasing in. Bruce Bird, the first of the riders in and over the line. Then Zach Nair, Philip Graves, and Mr. X100 in that order. SS, you can see what we meant about the time gaps opening. Once you get in there, now he's secure in that 5th place spot of the 5th rider in over the line. Remember, all of these results are subject to verification. The verification systems on MyWhoosh are particularly good at spotting issues, abnormalities. Now, that could be something because the humidity's changed, because there's been an issue with the turbo train, a technical issue in your connection. If that's the case, then your result will be annulled. Of course, if the worst were to happen and somebody were to be deliberately manipulating the results, didn't have the correct data, then, of course, like you would expect, you would see those riders pushed to the back. But remember, of course, all these results subject to that verification system. If you go onto the MyWhoosh.com website, you will see that the results become official or unofficial. When they're unofficial, they're still awaiting the verification. This could be awaiting the video. Remember, our riders having to do a weight check. They also have the potential that they might be asked to send a video in. Lots of ways that we at MyWhoosh can make sure that we get those results absolutely spot on. Now, let's drop back a little bit behind the riders up and through the finish. Darus, Van East, and Popovic are the riders who are chasing at the moment. So Darus for the Abus Le Col squad, Van East of the Abus Le Col squad. Both are pushing, currently clear of Popovic, but Popovic should be coming through to be our next rider in and over the line. And coming through for the UAE clan team. So it could well be the UAE clan team are going to get all 3 of their riders home pretty quickly here. The next team with all their riders, or with 3 riders coming home, could well be Amos Lecole, because it's going to be dependent on where Paradians goes in or Tigart goes in. And last we saw, it was Jasper Paradians who's coming up on to the climb in good shape, who could bring in that team home. So at the moment, Stefan van East and Matthias de Roos, the 2 teammates now coming around these turns. And as you can see, currently at 43.4k. You actually see coming down the opposite direction are riders who have finished spinning their legs down. As you'd expect, get to the top of the climb. You don't just climb off your bike. Why would you do that? You've got to enjoy the downhill on the way down, and it's perfect to warm down. It's really key when you are a top-class athlete. You've got to warm down. You've got to get that lactic acid out of the legs, spin those legs down on the way down. And that's one of the great things about riding on a turbo train, about using the e-cycling platform of MyWhoosh. It's really quick, it's convenient, it's safe. You don't have to worry about traffic. And when you're doing your warm down, you can watch everybody else coming into the finish on YouTube. Now, Van East and de Roos at the moment, who have the gap. Sultan Al Matari behind, coming up, currently sitting at 39k, not far behind these riders. Kenneth Borrego, Mr. G, Tom Harvey, Alfonso, and Vargas sandwiched in between, along with Popovich and Mel. At the moment, Stefan Van East just continuing to push the Amos Lecole squad rider in front of his teammate Matthias de Roos. The 2 riders already are piling on the pressure now. They don't want to get caught from behind. You can just see the different sections, of course, opening up. Looking back, we just see Sultan Al Matari making his way up here. Looks like Juan David Vargas in front, Alfonso in front as well. He will want to close those gaps down, but looking smooth at the moment. Nice revs there, 77 revs at the moment. Now you can see Van Eisten coaches coming up in to that gantry. Our results, though, of our top 5 riders: a victory for Bruce Bird from Draft, Zach Nair of the PB Insured, the next PB Insured team in second, Philip Grace of the Yorkshire Pudding Express, the third of our riders across the line, and it's our 2 UAE clan team riders, Mr. X100 leading home the team with SS immediately behind. Makes me feel a bit better about being dropped by both of them for several minutes on the flat sections, never mind on the hilly sections when we were out riding yesterday on that MyWhoosh ride. Don't forget, of course, you can sign up, download the app, go onto the MyWhoosh.com website, and make sure you get that registration done, get yourself signed up, get that avatar done, get your kit, and jump on the bike and get on a ride. I'll be generally out and riding most Fridays. Now, our riders still making the way in, our top 5 riders in and over the line. It's been an amazing race. I think we're pretty clear who's going to take our next 2 places. So I'm going to wrap up by saying congratulations to all of our riders. Everyone who finishes doing an amazing job out there. Thank you very much for watching. Our next race on the MyWhoosh channel will be coming up very shortly, and that is going to be our women's race. So from me, Matt Payne, and everyone at MyWhoosh, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time for our women's race.